Hello, welcome back to the L1 show that you can share links with your friends. It's March 14th, and we're doing government and social links to share with your friends.
We're back to March, and it's evaporating rapidly.
Yeah.
You know what else is evaporating rapidly? All of our rights.
Also our water. And our water rights.
Both very important things.
Yeah.
And surveillance is just a part of life now. I think we're boiled frogs at this point. But once in a while, some people do push back a little bit, and generally we're told, no, you're not allowed to do that.
SCOTUS
No!
says domestic dying is too secret to be challenged in court. Like this program, it's too secret for you to see the headline from reason.com.
This is probably a paywall alternative. I'm sure that this was carried by other outlets, right?
This is really infuriating because remember the case that spun off this whole, like there was a court case where a bunch of people died, and the widows of the people that died said, "That's weird. Why did they die?" And they said, "Oh, it's state secrets." But that was actually to cover up gross incompetence running the flight, which this article actually does talk about. Like that's the origin of this, not actually state secrets, but trying to cover up a crime. This continues to cover up crime.
And the excuses were pretty boilerplate, just like, no, national security, let's move on.
Which is what happened with the thing. And then when they finally declassified the stuff with the airplane because the widows were persistent, there was no reason for state secrets. It was just because they thought it would be unpopular, and also they look like morons.
And we got to start remembering to not use wired.com either, because I don't have this at home. But the FBI, they have made an admission. Now, we know that the end around for warrantless searches is that you can purchase the data from so many options at this point. We got companies that are out there just trolling license plates on the off chance that they can sell that to the government for some reason, and they often can. But should the FBI be allowed to do that? They didn't bother asking.
The FBI just admitted under oath to the Senate that yes, they have purchased location data to use in their investigations. This is great because we finally have record. Like we on this show have said, oh yeah, they're definitely doing that, just without any real proof or anything, just because all the signs pointed to yes. But now we have somebody under oath.
He kind of weasel worded it though. He was like, well, we had a program like that, but we don't anymore. But it's like, you do. You still have
well, when asked if they did it now, he said not currently. And they asked, are you going to? He said, we have no current plans, meaning that could change.
Yeah, and probably is changing. He finds a meeting after that hearing that's like, let's talk about buying more data.
Well, in his mind, he might have been like, okay, change plan, no current plans, change plan back. So, yeah, obviously. We all know how bad it is. But it is nice to get that little kernel of truth, and you get to nibble on it.
I'm not crazy.
Oh, maybe there's hope. There's no hope. And the fact that there's no hope is perhaps further pointed out by this new admission.
The ACLU has obtained documents detailing the FBI and Pentagon development of facial recognition technology. They want to deploy these in public surveillance cameras on the street, public information, and use that to track individual citizens.
And they are funding all of that development.
Yeah.
And you know that there are hooks in that funding saying that. We get all of it. You can't ask questions. You have to do what we say.
It's the only thing, one of the things that makes this less bad is that up till now, a lot of commercial providers were using Huawei for this because this is built into a lot of their cameras as well.
Oh, yay. It's our guys spying, not theirs.
They were clearly inspired by the CCP here.
Yeah.
I mean, they saw that, and instead of saying, that's awful, they said, we need that.
Once again, Spider-Man meme.
We're not, it's like, if you're on the side of this or against this, okay, whatever. But can we at least do it in the open? Can we have an honest conversation about it? Like the whole spying thing with SCOTUS is like, no, we must not talk about it. And it's like, why must we not talk about it?
Because it's unpopular and people don't want it.
If we're going to do it, we should at least talk honestly about it, right?
And in fact, we're not allowed to talk about it is literal in many of these cases. Like, hey, I just happened to find out that you're doing some spying or some warrantless stuff. I want to tell people about it. No. That is illegal.
The feds dodge a Twitter appeal in the First Amendment case over user info disclosure. Now, this first of all, this headline and this event has been misrepresented in a lot of places, a lot of mainstream media, to have something to do with the Twitter files and have to do something to do with algorithmic manipulation and that sort of thing. That's not what this is about. This is about, this is a little bit bombshell. People inside Twitter have said, okay, look, there's all this negative press on both sides of the aisle. There's the political thing. Let's just step back from that and let's just disclose how many national security letters we have. Let's disclose how many people are being surveilled through our program, because that should, like, just telling you the number of people and the number of warrants that we've had to serve, that should be allowed, right? No, that's not allowed. That information is classified.
We're not talking about telling the people who are affected. We're talking about just a number.
Yeah.
Just saying it happened this many times, not allowed.
Or saying things like, our infrastructure has been co-opted and is being used to monitor some of our users.
Remember the old where they took the negative of that, where it was like, as long as this page is up, we haven't been.
Yeah, warrant canary.
But like, I don't think any company could post that anymore.
Right.
They would all be gone.
Yeah.
So the canaries are now useless. Over in the FCC, we've had a lot of new actions from the SEC and the FTC, but seems like things are not going to be, there's not going to be any sea changes there because they're not going to get their new leader.
Biden's FCC nominee withdraws their name. No.
Yeah, she was like, I'm not about all the harassment. It's taken too long. I'm out.
It is really fun to read, and fun, I mean horrifying, to read all the stuff that she's been through. It definitely takes a toll, but also that telecom companies are willing to spend that much money to basically harass a nominee for...
Not even the actual regulator yet, just the nominee.
But why not just, like, report all of that? I mean, how bad... I mean, if you're going to be in the government, you have to deal with that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about what they did to Donald Trump. You know, I mean, you're asking for it if you're going to be in the government. Just tell us about it. Just be like, hey, this is what Spectrum's doing. This is what their lobbyists are doing. Start a blog. I don't understand the whole, like...
You can't start a blog in some places. That'll be relevant later.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I don't think she lives in Florida. And the old the TikTok saga just continues to roll forward, and this is really just baby steps toward ultimately, it seems like we are going to ban TikTok outright.
Yeah. White House backs bill to strengthen U.S. powers to ban TikTok.
I know some people who are like low-key addicted to TikTok who this might put them over the edge.
I know a lot of people that are high-key addicted to TikTok, like half the population.
My favorite thing to do is to mentally substitute TikTok with Pokemon Go, because a lot of the hysteria, I mean, Pokemon Go, you know, its rise and fall was meteoric, but
People still play it? Is it still up?
no, it's not nearly as popular as it used to be, but at one time it was.
Oh, I remember, because there was apparently a gym near us, and you'd see people milling around with it all the time.
I don't think the feedback loop is the same. I think TikTok is way more dopamine.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do nearly as much to get it
Right,
out.
you don't have to leave the house.
Yeah.
And it never stops.
At what level of dopamine does it become regulated by the government?
That's what they're doing, right?
Scientific list.
I mean, that's where we're getting there.
Cocaine, TikTok.
But would they be doing this if it was an American company? Because I don't think so. Because Facebook kind of...
Yeah.
Does the same thing. And YouTube's tried to mimic the whole shorts thing where it's like you constant scroll.
And Spotify now, everybody wants to be TikTok.
Ugh.
Everybody wants that addiction. Now, it makes sense that, like, if all of a sudden, you know, like, cocaine was legal, every drug company would start selling it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. And we haven't seen...
Maybe Walgreens.
Why wouldn't they?
I don't know. They're not selling certain things that are legal in some places for reasons.
You know, I think cocaine reaches across political and religious divides.
Yeah.
Like everybody's into it.
Everybody that's in office now that's an octogenarian was probably really coked out of their mind in the 70s, which is the irony.
Was.
You think McConnell's heart could stand?
That's why he's
still alive
now. It's just like...
Which we're so happy about here on the L1 show. As his constituents.
There's still a chance, Krista. I mean, I'm not saying somebody working in that hospital should be a hero here. But And this is not something that has happened in a long time. We had a lot of this during the pandemic as people got onto Zoom and they didn't know what they were doing and they were fumbling around. Apparently, the Federal Reserve still doesn't know what they're doing.
U.S. Federal Reserve Zoom conference canceled after porn bombing.
I like that you said it and then realized, But the craziest detail in this story is that there were 200 plus people on this call.
And they didn't understand how to set the security so that those people couldn't share their screens.
And yet,
So,
Federal Reserve.
yeah.
And the 200 people in a Zoom call. You know, most of those people are not going to say a word.
Well, but I mean, you're supposed to be able to observe what's
guess.
going on.
Yeah.
Well, I would say in the government, except, oh, wait, the Federal Reserve is not the government. They love to point that out. These are also, keep in mind, these are the people who are going to be in charge of the central bank digital currency. They can't operate Zoom, but they're going to operate our digital money.
I'm imagining a scenario like at the end of this call. You know how at the end of a call you'll be like, oh, thanks everybody, and everyone kind of just repeats it back. It takes like 10 minutes to get 200 people to all get on the same page and say, thanks everybody.
I was just thinking Federal Reserve. The word federal there is in the same sense as Federal Express.
As in not.
Yeah.
And the Microsoft Activision deal is still hotly contested. Microsoft just keeps giving more and more concessions. But interestingly enough, Microsoft, in getting even a chance at this, had to disclose all of their third-party deals and make all these like, oh, everybody gets Call of Duty, whatever. And Sony was they were spearheading that whole thing. But now the Spider-Man meme once again has struck.
The FTC has told PlayStation it has to reveal its third-party exclusive deals. Sony's request to quash a Microsoft subpoena has been mostly rejected. It really is a case of the FTC saying, wait a minute, you have these exclusivity deals? That seems anti-competitive. And then Microsoft said, oh, this is a totally industry norm. And Sony sort of used the opportunity to file an amicus brief. And now everybody has to disclose their third-party deals, which is amazing.
Sony did not like that. They did limit the scope to 2021 and after or something like that, but that's still going to be some embarrassing stuff to learn.
Yeah.
And it's all anti-consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, people are going to see it and they're going to get angry, as they should. Here's a bit of an alarming headline because our nukes are kind of old and the launch tubes and everything, they're aging for sure. So it's perhaps disturbing that suddenly there's a renewed interest in making sure that they work.
U.S. Air Force awards a $75.5 million contract for world's largest wireless ad-hoc network.
The understanding I had from reading this was less about the nukes, but more about the facilities, like protecting them and keeping them connected. Because they said that because they're so sprawling and they're so in the middle of nowhere, there's a lot of sections where like you could have a breach or something, but they would have no way to call back to base.
Or repair it.
Yeah.
Or respond.
Right.
In the case of an antagonistic launch. I think that's the big thing here. It's like, hey, if they knock out DC, we still need to be able to, connect these in any way that we can.
Yeah.
So the mesh makes sense.
Yeah, I do get the feeling this is a fallback network for when the wired stuff doesn't work. Because it's weird. All these commercial vessels keep cutting internet lines all over the world. It's so strange.
Yeah, when those advanced persistent threat groups get in and shut it down, and then the other nukes start coming. Yeah, probably not a bad idea. Although it does, having a wireless network like that is going to introduce some security risks.
Yeah, that was my other takeaway was like,
I think they're doing kind of a minimal information exchange. Basically, it's like, yes, we're still alive. Here's our status, but still a little worrying.
yeah.
Now this, I am almost positive this is not the first time this has been tried, right? Wasn't there one before? What state was it? Do you remember?
I think it was Florida.
Was it Florida?
What are they doing down there?
This is actually a watered down version of this, and I don't necessarily disagree with this one.
What?
It's insane. There's an aspect of it.
There's no
This
way.
is crazy.
You're not going to be able to justify that.
Yeah.
But this is the whole, it's like, let's roll something crazy out. Let
Yes.
people lose their mind. Let's wait a couple years because it's been, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point?
And then
This is way scaled back from the earlier version. It's still really odious, but it's way scaled back.
Let's get ready for some mental gymnastics here.
Florida bill would make bloggers who write about the governor register with the state. And the best interpretation of this for what DeSantis is saying, this is from Ron DeSantis, the guy who jailed the person for reporting stats on the infection rate of the thing, and used the police force as like a political thing, which is unacceptable. the best possible scenario for this, the best possible light for this is if you are paid by a political campaign to write political articles, you have to register and disclose that you are being paid by some campaign to write and do stuff.
But that's not a blogger. That's a lobbyist.
Yes, that's what they say in the bill, and that's what they say everything else is like if you're doing that. Now, if we want to write about, talk about how terrible of a human being he is for having that lady jailed for talking about stats and how that's not a way to run government, we would not be subject to that if that is an accurate interpretation of what it
We
says.
would absolutely be subject to it because we're not incorporated with a media group.
No. So what's happening here is that Ars Technica, being a left-leaning publication, has manipulated it. So I think you're absolutely right. I didn't read that particular detail. They're saying blogger, but it's lobbyist.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I agree with you now, for sure. Look how easy it is
Yeah, I know.
to nudge it over to the unacceptable.
Now, the first
But
version,
then they still have a big list of anybody who's ever been
Lobbyists?
even critical.
We should have a list of lobbyists.
But it won't always be lobbyists. Do you really think it'll just be lobbyists?
No, but it only applies if you take money.
It only applies if you take money and you don't work for a newspaper. If you take money and work for a newspaper, totally fine.
We should maybe do them too.
So they can have a nice big registry of all those people who are ever critical.
I mean, I could haul out press creds for some really obscure, very low circulation newspapers for things that have been written for those, but yeah, no, there are, and see, I don't know if there's a metagame that's being played here because the first version of this that came out a couple of years ago was just rando citizens. It was like,
Yeah,
I remember that one. That's why I assumed.
Yeah, if you're a rando citizen in Florida, then blah blah blah. They're trying to use the election commission. They're trying to skirt this in under an extension of election laws. Like this is an election law thing, and we think that if you are generating content, like I don't know if it's written this way, but a version of this that I would agree with is if you are being paid to generate political content of any kind, then that is about these candidates in Florida, then you should have to register somewhere.
But here's the thing, though. What about a Substack?
Yeah, what if it's like YouTube or something? It's like, oh, YouTube pays you, so obviously you need to be registered.
Like, what if I have a Substack and the opposition politicians come and like subscribe to my Substack or donate to my Substack a bunch?
Yeah.
There could be a loophole.
There's so many loopholes.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah, you have to allow the individual, like if you have just an individual person, like if my mom was just really mad about stuff and she wanted to blog about it, and even if she makes...
I love that scenario. I'm imagining that world right now.
Yeah. And, if she's making $5 a month from YouTube, she's just, got the angry video where she's yelling about Mitch McConnell into the TV.
Into the void.
And, and that generates, that goes viral or whatever. And she makes money from that. She shouldn't have to register. That is totally okay. And that should be protected under the First Amendment.
Now, what if... Well, yeah, it should be. What if we took this a little bit further, and if you took money from a political organization to be a lobbyist, what if we then burned your home?
If it's not the quid pro quo, but the mobs, there's a legal word for like when the mob responds to something really egregious that you do, the mob can't be held accountable. That's that. So it's like, well, you did that thing. You incited the mob burns your house down.
It's crazy that there is enough precedent that there's a legal word for that.
It's just Latin.
Is it Vox Populi?
No.
I'm sure that's
someone in the chat will know.
It almost means mob justice. It shows up with the Latin phrase for mob justice, but it's not mob justice. It's like...
Moving on to Mississippi. Now, I did not know. I thought West Virginia was number 50. I don't know what list that they're using.
It's not us, though.
The last time I looked at a list like this, we were like 47 or something like that.
But it's not us, though.
But, I think like Arkansas or Alabama, West Virginia. Apparently, Mississippi, according to Electrek, is the worst. But Electrek does have a dog in this fight.
Yeah, this is definitely it's a little editorialized headline.
Little bias here. This has more to do with car dealerships and how that whole system is completely corrupt.
Mississippi, 50th place in everything, according to Electrek, passes a bill to stop EV dealers. This article from Electrek points out a lot of problems in Mississippi about how very rural it is and how very corrupt everything is.
But that's kind of a straw man attack.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing it on purpose.
There's really not a lot coherent here other than this is a status quo bill. Like, this has to be.
Well, so Mississippi doesn't like the idea that, like, Tesla, for example, skips the dealership entirely. You buy online from Tesla, they deliver it to you. Everything is through Tesla, so there's no middleman. They really want the middleman.
Though in this case, they mentioned Tesla was specifically written into the bill as like Tesla can still operate in Mississippi.
Because probably so many people already have Teslas in Mississippi, and you would be absolutely screwing them.
Yeah.
I love looking into the history of this kind of thing because this happened, like Ford Motor Company is in large part why laws like this exist. Because they did really egregiously terrible things. Like, you think Elon Musk is insanely terrible. Henry Ford may have been just as bad, perhaps worse. And that's why you sort of want these things. The reason that, was it Montana? Montana wants pharmacies to be owned by pharmacists instead of corporations. It's the same kind of reasoning. It's like, we want local people or, individuals or small groups to own dealerships to hold them to account to make sure everything happens. Because when you have to deal with mama corporate, then it turns out that that's not usually in consumers' best interest. But it's been, like everything, it's sort of been twisted into something terrible. And
we have, like, just recently, the guy whose steering wheel fell off.
Yeah.
He had to pay $120.
Yeah.
And I was like, my steering wheel fell off. This is clearly your fault. Like, what could I have done wrong here to remove this? That's how it is. It's $120. Volkswagen. Yeah, $150 to find your missing child. Sorry.
We're sorry.
The dealership wouldn't have solved that one.
No, but
it just the scale is pretty unbalanced on the other side right now.
Yeah.
So Canada has pulled a trick right out of the Microsoft box. Yeah, think about how terrifying that is. And here's the thing about it. You cannot opt out of this. As a citizen, as a taxpayer, you must participate, and yet
Canada's tax revenue agency tries to terms of service itself out of a hacking liability. So in its terms of service, it says, you acknowledge and agree that we are doing the best we can to keep hackers out. And if we do get hacked, we're not responsible.
Some security researchers immediately audited that. They're not doing everything that they should. They're not only are they not doing everything that they can, which is what they say, they're not doing the basics.
Ooh.
Sorry if you're a Canadian taxpayer.
You think IRS.gov is any better?
No.
Yeah.
And this one, you might think, like, well, the Netherlands, what exactly did they have to offer in this situation? Lithography.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Very, very important lithography. So this is a huge coup for the U.S. military apparatus.
The dumbed down headline from Politico is the Netherlands to block export of advanced chips printers to China. That's how they explain EUV bulbs. It's chips printers.
But yeah, without this technology, and China cannot make this technology currently, and they probably have a hard time copying it too. So without this, their whole idea of let's do our own chips, it's going to be a tough one.
The technology, if you ever looked into what actually, how this thing actually produces EUV, it's insane. It's like a drop of tin into a vacuum chamber that's hit by a laser, which causes it to get a little bit bigger. And then they pull a tighter vacuum right after it's hit by the other laser or something. And they hit it with another laser that vaporizes it into plasma, which is that's a light source. And it's like, okay.
We're so far down the tech tree in the survival game at this point that you have to put so many specialized points to even get to that stage.
I don't want to think what the Factorio belts look like for EUV machines.
Yeah, China's going to have to farm a lot of experience to get anywhere near that. Let's hope they don't do that with a war. And Germany is following up. Once again, I feel like maybe the U.S. government's getting a lot of concessions from these people. Like, what did we offer up for all of this? But they are following along with the Huawei thing.
Germany planning to ban Huawei and ZTE from parts of 5G networks, according to this paper.
I wonder if they didn't even necessarily offer anything. They just gave them intelligence about here's what Huawei's doing.
Well, actually, we reported on this. It was 18 months ago. There was a commission in Germany that was investigating this, and their report was published. They were like, okay, we're coming out with the report, blah, blah, blah. That was redacted. Like the state stepped in and said, no, we're not publishing this. So that was either very good or very bad. It either said, this is everything the Americans said, or perhaps more disturbingly, it may have said, we don't see any evidence of this. They're just badly manufactured. They're not actually backdoors.
Well, they're even going so far as to yank them out and replace them. So they must have found something.
Yeah, they wouldn't spend the money.
Well, they might.
Just for optics, I guess, yeah. I guess money means nothing to these people.
Well, if it was badly made, it would be like a bridge. It's like, okay, we've accidentally used the wrong kind of steel with this bridge. We need to replace this bridge immediately. Oh, wait.
Yeah, that's not what we do.
Yeah.
Certainly not what China does.
We just keep using people. I love those social media posts where it's like, this is the bridge that has 1 million people going over it every day. And it's all rusted out. There's just a little sliver of metal left. And
It's moving up and down.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
Bridge can move a little bit.
Yeah. We had some of those in West Virginia. It wasn't great.
And once in a while, we get some, law enforcement working together to go after these cybercrime gangs. I love the names of the gangs in this.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
European police and FBI bust the international cybercrime gang. This is good. We're getting our stuff together for international cooperation.
One's something like evil.
Team Evil.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Evil Corp? Yeah.
That's from the hacker show that was popular for a while.
Evil Corp and then Doppel something.
It was
Doppelpaymer was the malware.
It was Freddie Mercury actor. He's really good.
But yeah, they come up with fun names.
Oh, I know who you're talking about now.
There's that
Mr.
hacker
Robot?
show. Yeah, Mr. Robot.
I didn't
There you
watch
go.
that, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you know what? I forgot to go back and read this one.
Baidu works round the clock to meet its ChatGPT-styled AI deadline and borrows Nvidia's powerful chips and other team members. So this article is not really super good, but it does
It's a paywall alternative.
It's some foreshadowing for how brokers and third-party buyers were set up to continue to buy Western chips like Nvidia's AI stuff so they could do this. But also, it's weird because last week we reported that the CCP said, no, we're not going to go headfirst into a ChatGPT style thing. But there are several firms inside China that are still working on ChatGPT, so it's very strange.
But Google also said that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And look how fast they've turned their story around because ChatGPT is taking over the world.
And GPT-4 is supposed to launch this week, so we'll be hands-on with GPT-4 like while you're watching this.
Well, you know who won't be?
Yeah.
Certain people in Taiwan.
Taiwan suspects Chinese ships cut island's internet cables. One was a merchant shipping vessel, and the other one was a fishing vessel.
That immediately retreated into Chinese waters. It was like, bye. They didn't even get a chance to catch it.
Didn't deliver their load, the shipping vessel. So they're saying, hey, this is, basically a preview. They're testing and seeing what could they do during wartime.
Do we have the correct cables? Snip.
How many times it was like the last 5 years they've cut it? How many times? I don't remember the number in the article. It was high.
A lot, yeah.
It's like 70.
My fear is that this is being done to normalize the cutting behavior as prelude to when something bad really happens. You can't take this as an indicator that something bad has started. It's like, oh, they just cut the cables again. And it's like, oh, no, it's for real.
Also, there's an army moving in and no one can get out to let anyone know.
Well, I mean, we've got enough surveillance in the area. They might get like a 30-minute head start with that. I don't know.
But then I can't watch live updates of it on Twitter.
Yeah. Watching war in real time is both terrifying and fun.
It's bizarre. It's a bizarre timeline we live in.
Is there a way that I can save up some electricity in the basement for hard times? Because
what are you going to do?
I'd slowly go insane.
Now, I would say that Christopher Wray doesn't have a lot of goodwill or trust left in his bank. I think we've seen what he's about. But pretty easy to hit this one out of the park. Everybody wants to hear this.
FBI chief says TikTok screams of U.S. national security concerns. I'm always disappointed when it's like, all right, give me some specifics. And he's like, I can't.
They're bad. Just trust us.
I mean, that's probably true, but at least with Huawei, it's like...
There's actual evidence, yeah.
It's like, okay, if they were using that for this, I can go look for evidence of that myself because I've got some Huawei gear. And then I look at it and it's like, oh, that's weird. The bootloader is oddly complicated.
And if you've noticed that we try to refrain Krista from swearing for the first 10 to 15 seconds of these videos lately, that's because YouTube made some crazy policy changes. Really as crazy as the first 8 seconds, you're not allowed to curse, but after that, maybe okay. I think they still demonetize pretty hard, though.
Yeah.
And that was overwhelmingly unpopular.
YouTube reverses course on controversial swearing and monetization policy. Colorful language is now somewhat mostly kind of allowed, according to this article.
We're not going to tell you the exact rules, and you're going to get demonetized anyway.
But in reality, this channel is so obscure, they don't care. Join on Patreon and Flowplane, because we'll always be there.
The algorithm turned on us long ago.
Yeah.
We're not sure why, but we know it has.
Because we had the...
Well, not just that. It was way before that.
Yeah.
We encourage you to use your brain as opposed to just saying...
It's long format content, too.
Consume.
People like that quick scroll.
Consume.
And one other thing, if you are one of the blessed people who actually allow ads on these videos, thank you. They are going to make them possibly a little less horrible.
YouTube is killing the overlay ad format next month. Annoying banner ads that cover videos are getting the boot.
Hope you didn't need any subtitles there.
In the entire universe of those ads across all of YouTube, how many of those do you think anybody ever actually clicked on intentionally?
That's probably the reason.
Yeah. You're trying to scrub through and it's like, I hit the
I would
ad.
say 99% of the clicks were trying to get the X.
I think that YouTube should do what agencies have done, which is to just embrace the darkness of bilking advertisers out of advertising dollars. Like the advertising doesn't need to be effective. It just needs to be there.
Yeah, but advertising budgets across the board are getting cut.
Yeah.
So
YouTube's going to be more effective than most other kinds of advertising regardless. So.
yeah, but they're going to lose money. So they're trying to figure out a way to stop
Store.level1text.com.
Which doesn't help YouTube at all. No. The thing that really blew my mind about this news story, link, is that enough people still want cable for this to be effective.
Yeah.
Like, how are these people not also cutting the cord? Maybe because it's so cheap?
Local YouTube star sentenced to 5.5 years in order to forfeit $30 million in large-scale piracy case.
This might be like just the guy's lawyer really talking him up, but it was like this guy grew up like in the middle of nowhere with like nothing, and he made something of himself doing this business, and I was like, oh, I kind of feel bad for him now.
But the thing he made himself was a criminal.
Yeah. Well, it's his lawyer. His lawyer's defending him. But it did kind of work a little bit when I
came up hard, but I've really pulled myself up by the bootstraps, and now I beat women. What a beautiful story that is.
Ironically, that person probably wouldn't get 5.5 years.
Yeah, I'm sure the cable industry
yeah.
really leaned on that sentence.
There was also a passage in here where he talks about like, I realize now I'm wrong after watching this Disney movie. And I was like, did Disney stipulate that for you to say that in your statement?
Probably the mouse. Yeah.
They probably offered him a year off his sentence.
Yeah, it was very strange. It's like the last little bit of the article.
How about we're going to give you 3 months, you wear a Disney Plus t-shirt at the trial.
Yeah. Make sure you put that out in your statement so people feel better about it.
There's also got to be an aspect of his experience that he would not be comfortable talking about, I'm sure. But, he said that when he was growing up, his dad showed him how to make crack or something. And I'm sure that he knows somebody. There was somebody in that circle that probably went away for murder and probably for less than 5 years.
You probably get personal recognizance for cooking crack these days. Well, think about the woman. Okay, the woman last week drove her car into a Popeyes because they didn't give her any biscuits.
Rational.
Personal recognizance.
Yeah.
The same day she got out. This guy stole cable. He's going to go away for 5
years. That's why he shouldn't have done that. But I'm also kind of like.
At the end of, it's like he gave the money back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not willingly.
Well, 5 years seems a little excessive for copyright violation. come on. That's
a pro tip, though. Pro criminal tip is you always want to like siphon a little bit off into cash and like zip, like vacuum
to return it.
Vacuum pack that. No. Vacuum pack it and like hide it somewhere.
Probably not cash. Probably precious metals.
Well, something that you can. That might be hard to turn back because now precious metal sales are.
Oh yeah.
You have to sell tiny bits of it at a time. Better than nothing, I guess.
You know, the dude that we know also has to register, and he's real salty about that. Like he's on the radar where it's like, oh, he can't buy and sell precious metals anymore because he used to do a lot of that, kind of off books.
I don't actually know who that is.
The guy at the school.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
The he's here.
Oh. I know who you're talking about. The chat's lost right now, but
Yeah,
I know who he's talking about.
But you'll just be like, that guy. They get real salty if he doesn't follow report, even if it's 0.
This is we're jumping ahead a little bit here to a different headline. This is the security section, where we talk about like leaks and so forth. Or maybe no, is this the
This is
social
social.
media?
We did social and
Okay.
government this round.
Right, but this is also a crossover to AI. AI's in everything now, and it gets really hard to categorize.
Well, it feels a little. I think it's different from crypto in that it seems like it's going to be more relevant, but it feels a little bit like the crypto bandwagon where everyone was like, "I got to put blockchain in the name of my product."
I can't wait for the AIT.
Yeah. It was. Well, we'll talk about that because there's a story about that. But Meta, spoiler alert. There's they have a new AI. Oh, that was exciting, but there's a problem.
Meta will keep releasing AI tools despite leak claims. So Meta, in their press release a couple of weeks ago, I think we reported on this, said, "Oh, we're running headfirst into AI. We don't sure that makes sense for society." But behind closed doors, they were like, "Full speed ahead. We got to. If we hit this out of the park, we are relevant again."
So now it's been leaked, and other people have it. That's the llama model. But they say, we don't care, we're doing it anyway. Because what else can they do?
Yeah.
They have to have it. They are already irrelevant from the metaverse stumble, and now they have to have something.
I saw an ad today that was like, it was for dog food, and it was like in the dog verse, donate food to a dog in the dog verse, and then we will donate a bag
Is
of
it
dog
a virtual
food.
dog?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the context of it all was,
The
but they
whole
have some sort of virtual reality for dogs.
Dear marketing agency, the reason we're going into VR is because the world is too bleak. Don't bring the bleakness of the real world into VR.
It was odd.
Sincerely,
Odd ad.
literally everyone.
Well, Krista, if you would like to get Rue into the dogverse, it's going to cost less than ever.
Meta is cutting prices for its VR headsets. They cut like $500 off the price of one of them.
Yeah, the flagship one is down 500. The other one, not so much.
It was like $50. The other one was.
Yeah, a little more than 50. 60, I guess. But yeah, that 500 off the, what was that thing called? MetaQuest Pro.
Speaking of, that's a sign of the collapse, the price cuts, blah, blah, blah. Did you know one of the monitors here died? And so it's like, okay, I got to shop around for a replacement. And the person wanted a TV instead of a monitor. And it's like, wow, this TV that has all these features is like $450. And it's a huge.
Yeah, they overstocked from
Yeah.
the chip debacle. Right? Yeah. You know what else is a big sign of the collapse? Extreme fear.
Oh, they literally put it at the top of the website. Like they should really just put it in big red letters. How freaked out should you be today? Extremely fearful.
Today is a rough day. We'll talk about that actually tomorrow.
In the business.
In the
We're
collapse
recording this
section.
on a Friday, but
And WhatsApp a lot. So the EU has these new rules coming up. It's like, no end-to-end encryption. And God bless these companies, as horrible as they are. They step up to the plate and they say, we will leave. Will they really? I don't know, but I like that they're saying it.
Reuters has the headline, WhatsApp agrees to be more transparent on policy changes.
This was the
EU
wrong
says.
article.
Yeah, well, in this article, it mentions how WhatsApp is not going to do the end-to-end encryption, or they are going to do end-to-end encryption. They will refuse EU orders to weaken their end-to-end encryption, which is great. But they did provide a number of concessions other than that one. But that one was one that they were not willing to concede on.
But this is the one about how they just keep changing the policies and not telling anybody. They're going to stop doing that. Yeah.
The big policy change is that they will report things like your network and your IP address and probably your MAC address, like the Wi-Fi network that you're connected to. So if they're surveilling somebody, they might not be able to get the messages. There's still a lot of data they can get.
And if you get phishing emails and stuff like that, and if you're smart, you float over and look at who is this really from before you click on it, and you see this domain name that's like a string of numbers.com, and you think, why don't we just go and find out who registered that? Why isn't that a thing? Well, it's because of this, but it seems like that party's over.
Sued by Meta, Freenom halts domain registrations. Why? Because just any rando could sign up for domain names, and it was causing a lot of headaches for everybody.
oops.
It's actually kind of good that Meta were the ones to step up to deal with this, but it's really an anti-spam measure.
Yeah.
And anti-phishing and malware and stuff like that. I mean, you have to have a domain in order to, do your things. So
If you're North Korea, this would be a very effective and cheap way to create chaos for everybody, though. It's just free domain name registrations.
This is the story.
They're too busy firing stuff into the ocean. They can't be bothered with that.
They can multitask. This is the one I thought I was introing before.
WhatsApp would not remove end-to-end encryption for UK law, says Chief. The EU was eyeing that as well.
So yeah, I really hope they follow through with that.
Yeah.
Oh.
It worked for Facebook in Australia, kinda. It brought them back to the table at least.
It's like only a stupid person that doesn't understand at all how this works would even want such a thing.
And this is maybe my favorite story of the week. And the lesson here is be careful how you censor. Be careful how you force people to do things, because eventually it will be turned on you.
Comedian sues Ocasio-Cortez for blocking him on Twitter after he catcalled her outside the U.S. Capitol.
Now, he was doing this on purpose. He was designing it so that she would get angry and react. She did. She did exactly what he wanted. He was making fun of her, calling her a big booty Latina.
He was being kind of nasty. It wasn't very funny, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, comedian is like, I guess, his self-styled. But what he was wanting to do was get blocked on Twitter, which he did. And then he used the same rule about Trump not being able to block people on Twitter. He says, you're a politician. You have to listen to me.
I do wonder, is he a constituent though? Because Trump technically all 50 states. I don't know that she'll bother fighting
in
it.
New York. I don't know if he lives there. Says she settled with a former Brooklyn assemblyman who would be a constituent, and she had to restore him. So this is kind of the same thing.
Right. But this, I don't know if this guy counts for that.
But
We'll soon know.
Yeah.
But the proper thing for her to do if she doesn't like this is to leave Twitter. Because she doesn't need to be on Twitter.
Right. Or have her staffer deal with it so she doesn't have to see it.
Yeah, whatever.
But she would make so much less political or campaign contributions if she left.
That would be terrible. And over in China, they are very serious about restricting live streams. Over the years, it's just the noose has tightened more and more. First, no bananas. Then there was no sleeping, right?
Yeah.
Your clothing had to be a certain, not much nudity. There was another weird one. Do you remember what that was? They just kept coming up with more and more because people kept,
finding ways to push it. Yeah.
They would make the stream spicy in a way the CCP had planned for, so ban more things. You got to wonder how long this one's going to last.
China has banned women from modeling lingerie and online shopping live streams, so men are doing it instead.
Also, what a minefield this would be in America.
Yeah.
Just the whole discussion would be a disaster. But in China, they don't really play that game yet. These guys look pretty fabulous. Huh. With the masks, it is tough to tell. Great collarbones on those gals.
Odd.
And apparently it's real popular.
I guess, I think that, Instagram kind of tried to do this too, where they had, people streaming and then you could buy stuff directly. I think that's really popular in China, but it hasn't taken off in the same way here.
Huge in China.
Well, that's, go ahead.
Well, some of the people in the article said the reason they go to those streams is because everything is cheaper, but I don't understand how that makes sense. How do you make money if your stuff is, because maybe you don't have to do the retail.
IKEA has done that before where if you here is the IKEA catalog and this is the IKEA, you're looking at a living room, let's say.
Oh, and it's got, the little, buy this, buy that, buy that.
And the IKEA has totally done the thing where it's buy the entire living room as you see it and you get 15% off. And it's easier for them to deal with. And it's you get the couch and the table and the bookcase and the thing. And then it's boom, that's in your space. I'm surprised that it's not more popular. I mean, Ethan Allen was the Kmart brand in the Sears and Roebuck days. And then people saw it in the Sears catalog and they're like, oh, I want this in my living room because somebody, creatively did interior decorating for them. And then all of a sudden.
And studio lighting.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden everybody was like, oh, we need the collection. And then all of a sudden it was a high-end brand and they were making higher end stuff.
You think if you and I throw on some negligee, we'll sell some KVMs? Maybe some t-shirts?
I think that if we wouldn't even need the negligee. I mean, we could just,
But why skip the opportunity?
Look how happy those guys are.
Product placement, Taco Bell.
Store.level1text.com.
We didn't get a goodbye last week, Kristen.
Oh, yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.